Alright, hello everybody, welcome back to another offline video, and today I've got something surprisingly optimistic to talk about. For once we've got some good news, because it really does feel like it's just been bad news after bad news after bad news after poor development after dreadful development after bad news for the last year or so now, especially when it comes to policy and the state of internet culture, and culture at large being very right-wing and anti-LGBT right now. A lot of stuff's just kinda sucked for a little while now. One of the things that's contributed greatly to the suckiness of the last year or so has been the proliferation of Andrew Tate and his orbit. The dude bro, crypto bro, money-loving, like, hustle bro culture, misogynist red pill types. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. You've got your Sneakos, your Aiden Rosses, and of course your Andrew and Tristan Tates. There's of course a lot more other people in that orbit and a million other people below them on the pyramid that is their pyramid scheme scam they do. Basically disseminating their content and growing their own audiences, but for the most part, they are the figureheads of the movement. As a matter of fact, if you're curious how that pyramid scheme works, well, if you've gone into YouTube Shorts anytime recently, or even TikTok, you might have found a lot of Andrew Tate, Sneako, or Aiden Ross clips, usually with some, like, Subway Surfers or, like, GTA custom map gameplay, like, split on the screen on the bottom going on to help keep your attention. And it'll be, you know, either Sneako or Andrew Tate or Aiden Ross or one of those people talking about how awful women are, or how to get money, or some weird philosophical shit, right, about the Matrix and how the universe is all simulation. And there'll be some music that sounds super mysterious, and it's made to want you to stay there and watch the whole video, and maybe even see that guy, and you're like, oh, this Andrew Tate guy sounds interesting, I should see what else he has to say. It's a pyramid scheme of a bunch of other people disseminating small clips of his content on social media to grow his and the rest of, you know, Andrew Tate's posse's notoriety and their reach. The amount of dirt on these individuals is extraordinary. I'm going to be getting into a lot of it on one of them in particular later in this video, but I really can't list the amount of shit that's gone on with these individuals, really. Andrew Tate, for example, is currently, I believe, on his 5th month, maybe 6th month of detainment in a Romanian jail, or Romanian prison, for sex trafficking charges. And I believe rape as well. So, interesting. But despite that, his audience, Andrew Tate's audience, and I guess the audience of these other figures as well, have stayed steadfast in their support of him and their claims that he is either innocent or B, completely guilty of the sex trafficking and rape, but it's based if he did it anyway, so he shouldn't be in prison. That's the opinion of the vast majority of Andrew Tate and Sneako and Aiden Ross's audience. I do want to talk about some more recent developments, because finally, as I mentioned earlier, there is some good news. So, Sneako is without a doubt one of the largest figures to come out of the Andrew Tate sphere. He is basically a wannabe Andrew Tate. In every way he emulates Andrew Tate. He's even outright said he wants to be the next top G, which is what Andrew Tate calls himself, of course. And, you know, he's maybe not as much of a chair sniffer as Aiden Ross, and I mean that, by the way. Aiden Ross literally sniffed Andrew Tate's chair after he was sitting on it on camera. It was very bizarre to watch, but he did that. Aiden Ross did that, I suppose. We'll have that be the dirt we have on Aiden Ross for this video. But Sneako, he's really the focus of what we're talking about today. Because if you've been paying attention to Twitter or YouTube or any social media for the last few days, you have probably seen that Sneako has had a thermonuclear missile dropped on him from orbit. I want to go into some detail about it, and then I also want to talk a little bit about the implications of these developments. So, it has been a frustrating, but still predictable experience for the last year or so, watching the rise and growth of people like Andrew Tate, Aiden Ross, and Sneako. You see, I've been bringing it up a lot, but I feel it's worth bringing up here. I've been a proponent of the idea that the internet and culture broadly has been backsliding into another age of right-wing cultural dominance, very much like what we saw from 2014 to 2017 during the Gamergate era. You see, from 2019, maybe 2018 if you want to push it, to 2021, we really did see a particularly large boom in left-wing cultural dominance. It really did seem like most people, even normie content creators, just everything that came up in culture, if it could be made political, it seemed like it was benefiting the left. And not only that, but those that were right-wing demagogues seemed to just be kind of laughed at and made into laughingstocks for a few years straight. They had their audiences, but they'd become somewhat niche. They were shadows of their former selves. They were nothing like what they are today, at least in terms of their size and their reach. That said, I was one of the proponents of the idea that a new age of right-wing control like what we're in now was coming. And I did get laughed at a lot for it. A lot of people didn't believe me, and a lot of people did believe me, to be fair. And I've kind of sat and watched as, early on, I saw Andrew Tate start to sort of rise up through the YouTube Shorts algorithm. That's where I really started to discover him, along with Sneako and Aiden Ross and whatnot, and just that whole sphere, that whole side of the internet, the hustle bro, tech bro, crypto bro, money bro, women bro, hustle bro culture, right? That whole area of the internet. I watched as it sort of grew, and I was like, it's happening. It's happening. It's happening. And I watched as for the last 6 months, people slowly started to catch on. Oh shit. It's happening. It's happening. And I think for the last 3 months or so, I think we've really been in the fever pitch of it. With all the conservative demagogues outright just chanting for genocide against trans people, the insane laws being passed that I watched an interview with a teacher that had been done with like some school board administration about a law that had been passed. I'm not sure exactly where. It might have been Tennessee. I forget which state it was. It was a red-controlled, southern state, so that should go without saying. But the laws that had been passed on banning critical race theory were so vague and unclear that the school board was not able to determine whether or not teachers were allowed to say if slavery was bad or not. If a student asks, well, was slavery a bad thing overall? The school board and the teacher are not sure if they are legally allowed to answer that question. That's the kind of stuff that's happening lately. And I think a lot of people can agree. We are in a bad state of things politically. However, I think, much like I predicted what's happening now in the future, I think I see the writing on the wall, much like I did before, enough so to predict where things are headed now. And I have evidence to substantiate this, much like I did before. Back when I made my original, the next anti-SJW wave is rising video, back like over a year ago, like 2 years ago now, I think. I believe that we are in the climax of right-wing cultural dominance online. I think that this next election is probably going to go pretty hard in the favor of the Democrats, at least looking at the way things are going now. The midterms, the Democrats did very well, and I honestly don't think that the Republicans pushing this anti-trans narrative is as popular as they think it is. I know it really seems like this anti-trans, anti-groomer narrative has been very successful, and it has, but statistically, most of the population, even in red states, are not this aggressively anti-trans. They're going to be put off by this incessant obsession with trans people and the idea that they're groomers. Believe it or not, there are some reasonable conservatives out there who vote Republican under the belief that their values are being better represented, by that Republican, and their values aren't necessarily demonically evil in the same way that the pundits they watch are. There are a lot of dumb, I don't want to say dumb, there are a lot of useful idiot conservatives out there, unfortunately. And while it's easy to lump them in when talking about these issues, I think it's important to distinguish between the radicalized populations out there. And I wouldn't even consider this population really radicalized, just indoctrinated, right? It really seems like we're in the apex of all of this. And what I mean by that is, we're at the cap. I don't really think it gets much crazier and more right-wing dominant than this. In fact, I think we're already starting to see things slow down. I think the arrest of Andrew Tate and Elon Musk buying Twitter to very mixed reception, even from his, like, general target audience, I think that was the start of it. I said this all the way back when Elon Musk bought Twitter, and the reaction was pretty much overwhelmingly negative, from the shutdowns of basic Twitter functionality to the mass firings. I said that I think Elon Musk's constant blunders with his acquisition of Twitter has basically tarnished his reputation and the reputation of the rising pseudo-right-wing dude bro, crypto bro audience that he had behind him. It really stemmed their ability to grow in the broader public mainstream forum, right? That said, I see the same thing happened to Andrew Tate when he got arrested. While, yes, he does still have his followers, he does still have his supporters. Hell, there was a bunch of teenagers marching in Greece chanting to free Tate, right? That said, though, I think his arrest for sex trafficking charges basically made him radioactive to any, like, mainstream figure that might want to platform him or support his ideas or repeat the things he says. It really just made him and everything he stands for radioactive to anybody who has any level of self-preservation for their career or a conscience, you know? Which is effective. It's quite effective. I think the fall of Sneako, which we're seeing right now, is another milestone that in the future people will talk about as what caused the fall of this era of right-wing dominance. You see, just like we had the breadtube era, I think we're going to see another era of left-wing dominance at some point in the future. I don't know when. I think it's probably, if I were to guess, a few years off. But I think we're right now seeing the beginning of the end of this era of conservative right-wing dominance. I think a lot of it had to do with a generation of Zoomers coming to TikTok in particular and discovering the Tate brothers and just that whole section of right-wing TikTok. A lot of it was TikTok. Back then it was YouTube. This time around, it was really TikTok and the YouTube Shorts algorithm. Just that short-form content was really what did a lot to push this era of right-wing demagoguery. There's not really much that I can say to describe Sneako because he's not really a personality. Sneako is like if you took all of the worst traits about douche tubers, like, I don't know, Rice Gum, just constantly flexing about wealth, putting down their own audience and trying to make themselves feel better for having money and wealth and somehow lucking out with YouTube success. Take all of those negative traits and distill them into one person who's even more arrogant and smug and wrong about everything. Politically, socially, everything. Yeah, as I said, there's not much that I can really say about Sneako because there's not much of a personality to talk about there. However, he is still quite popular, and what he's known for are basically these reactions he'll do to these street videos where it's like, hey, lady on the street, what's the capital of the United States? And she'll be like she's clearly drunk, like she's holding like an alcoholic beverage in her hand, walking down a boardwalk on the beach or some shit, and she's like, I don't fucking know, whatever. And Sneako will be like, yo, these hoes are fucking retarded, bro. Why do we let women vote? This is why women belong in the kitchen, bro. This is what's wrong with females nowadays. And then he'll go on like a very he'll go on a very animated description about how he would sexually assault that woman. That's generally what he's known for. Like, I'm not even kidding, by the way. These are all things he's done. I'm literally drawing from direct examples. Direct examples. I can't even speak, it's so late. That said, despite all of this, Sneako grew in popularity, but recently, his undoing has begun. Or his undoing has, I guess, unfolded. It's really hard to say, like, how much further this is going to go, because it really just seems like he's crumbling as we speak, and it doesn't look like it's stopping anytime soon. You see, people looked around, and they dug something up about our boy Sneako. You see, Sneako, despite fronting as a big Chad alpha male Sigma dude bro, is a cuck. An unironic cuck, not like what right-wingers call left-wingers, like, oh, you think that minorities should have human rights, you fucking cuck. Not like that, no. I mean, Sneako sat on a bed, the same bed, as he watched that his girlfriend was being banged by another dude on the very same bed, and he sat there and he watched it. He later went on to say, I believe, that he was, at one point he said it traumatized him, and he was frozen, and he was too stunned to do anything. And then at another point he said he was glad to have experienced it because it helped him get over his nervousness about cheating. Now, I've got nothing wrong with people who are in polyamorous relationships or have the cucking kink. There's nothing wrong with having kinks that are just kind of weird, I guess, as long as no one's getting hurt. However, Sneako is a massive hypocrite, and that is what the internet has latched onto. Not only that, but people were also able to dig up a clip, or I think multiple clips of him defending the movie Cuties. Not just defending the movie Cuties, though, but like gushing over it. If you don't know what the movie Cuties is, then honestly, I'm just not going to tell you, because you've been protected by some layer of like not being terminally online that I'm not even going to tarnish that protective barrier you have on yourself right now. Don't Google it if you don't know. Just know it's bad to defend it. Really bad. Not just defend it, though, but to gush over it, I should say. To say that it was one of his favorite movies and he loved it, that it was amazing, is what he said. So people dug that up. And on top of that, a shit ton of very popular content creators, even ones respected within the demographic that Sneako targets, have basically turned on him, or I shouldn't say turned on him, but I guess I should say targeted him, and rightly so, with just criticism. And he has just been decimated, from Moist Critical to Brandon Buckingham, who has offered to fight him, but Sneako has refused to fight and has continually dodged, meanwhile demanding that Critical, someone who's like, I think 5'6" is what people have been saying, much shorter than Sneako. It's very clearly not a fair fight in terms of stature, though I do still think Charlie would win. Demanding Charlie fight him, meanwhile turning down and just kind of like hiding from, not even outright turning down, hiding from the challenge that he's been issued by Brandon Buckingham. It's quite pathetic, and all of these things, among many others, have been called out by numerous YouTubers. YouTube is being flooded with call-out videos on Sneako right now. I just finished watching Turkey Tom's new video on Sneako. I think it's pretty much the end for Sneako, I think, when you know the commentary community, which, while it's not necessarily conservative or right-wing, it typically leans more on the edgy, I'm not going to fight against conservatives because they're conservative side, if you know what I mean. When they're turning on Sneako for the shit he's saying and doing, he's gone too far for them. You know that it's his downfall has started. His downfall has begun. It's over for him. The twine is unraveling at this point. The amount of takedown videos, takedown tweets, meme tweets, the amount of... Oh my god, look at Sneako's Twitter. Every single tweet he posts, no matter how much, likes it gets, is getting ratioed by just random accounts, gimmick accounts, calling him a cuck. Just posting memes calling him a cuck. He's done. And considering Aiden Ross has left Twitch and gone to, what is it called, Kick, and is basically like disgraced at this point as being, an illiterate dumb fuck, and Andrew Tate is in prison for sex trafficking, And, this is the end of Sneako. This is the end, I think, or the beginning of the end of this red pill era. And I think the red pill era is really what helped bring about this current era of right-wing politics. You see, I think it comes in twos. Back in Gamergate, there were two big narratives that were focused on. The two biggest targets of right-wing propaganda were feminism and Islam. Overly like immigration, but Islam was like the start of it, right? The new atheist community focused on Islam as like their in, along with how feminism was contradictory for defending Islam because Islam is sexist, right? That was the argument they made back then. I know I'm taking you guys back in time, the 2014, 2015 Sam Harris, Jordan Peterson arguments, but that was what was popular back then. That was what brainwashed scores of teenage boys, just like Andrew Tate did in, today. And I think we're seeing the fall of this new age, and we're seeing it start now. And I must say, I'm happy to see things start to look up. I think that right now, if you want to make a direct comparison to the two targets that I brought up from the past, right now it's trans people and women. Once again, it really does. Like, to be fair, women tends to be a modifier to, like, most minority groups that makes them extra oppressed, right? Like, most minority groups out there can also exist in the subcategory of women, and that usually adds like a modifier to the oppression, right? If you're like you can be black, and that'll mean you have to face a lot of oppression. But if you're a black woman, then you also have to face like the misogyny side of it as well. So it's like extra modifiers to it. So yeah, it really does seem like these reactionary movements always spearhead around hating women at the end of the day, because a lot of it does come from sexually frustrated young men. Really, that's the fuel for these movements, sexually frustrated young men. So at the end of the day, a lot of their, motivation comes from a hatred and a disdain for women. They're bitter. A lot of them are just bitter. But yeah, watching Sneako fall and seeing as the internet kind of takes a turn on things, it's slight, but I'm seeing it, in the same way that I saw the internet start to turn more towards the right back in the day. I'm seeing that slight start of the internet turning to the left. I don't know. I'll point out more bits of evidence of it as I see it. But, if you guys think that the same thing is happening, I want to hear what you guys think of all of this down in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like, subscribe, ring the bell icon to turn on all notifications so YouTube tells you when I go live or upload a new video. Follow all my social medias, linked down below in the description. And of course, with all that said, thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.